From the Oklahoma newsroom, it's another Thunder Thursday here with our Thunder coverage team. Well, in part, we got one still on the road. Not here yet from his travels out west is Brett Dawson, but I'm joined by columnist Barry Trammell and Thunder beat writer Eric Horn. Guys, we mentioned that West Coast swing that Brett is on, the Thunder just coming back from it, and it was not a kind West Coast swing for this Thunder team. Eric, what are we to make of these two blowout, not very appetizing losses for the Thunder?
Well, kind of a thing we knew before we went into it. They need some reinforcements, and they need Victor Oladipo first and foremost. He's a really important player to them. I think that was even magnified even more over these past couple of games. Not just offensively, because we know that Victor Oladipo, you're missing that 16 to 17 points a game that he brings to the table. But when he's on the court defensively, I think he's one of the top 10 guys in the league in terms of defensive rating this season. And what he does when he's on the court defensively is that's one less guy that Russell Westbrook has to be accountable for.
Right.
And as we've seen before, Russell Westbrook can fall asleep on defense. He doesn't put out the full effort necessary. And in a sense, you can kind of give him a pass on that because he does so much for you offensively. But when Oladipo's not on the court, it's basically Andre Robertson 1-on-3 on the perimeter, right. and you're really seeing how much Russell Westbrook is giving up on the defensive side. So it just kills him in that regard. And particularly in the Portland game, it hurt him a lot.
Yeah, here we were not too long ago talking about how Victor Oladipo was struggling. Maybe they'd take back even a struggling Victor Oladipo at this point, Barry. What was your takeaway from these two losses out west?
Well, it would appear that Victor Oladipo has thrust himself into the MVP race, the way they played without him, for crying out loud. But Eric the Red is right. Defensively is where it really showed up. And you could give them a pass against Portland because the Blazers are really good scorers. But Utah's not a good offensive team. Mm-hmm. And they shot 58%, scored 109 points, and they're playing without their own point guard George Hill, who's a really good player.
Yeah.
So, to me, it was very, very alarming. The Thunder's got to fix that, and I don't mean just by getting Oladipo back. They've got to figure out how to play quality defense, even if a mainstay is gone.
Obviously, guys, the equation might have changed if Oladipo was available for either of these games or both of these games. But with a team that has, Eric, you mentioned help for Russell Westbrook, with a team that's got deficiencies, are we just bound to see these kind of moments throughout the season? These guys have to give such maximum effort on a regular basis to win games, that there just may be times when they're going to swoon and not play very well. Is that something we saw they started great, then had a little losing streak that, followed by another little losing streak, got back on the winning side, now a couple ugly games. Is this just how this season may just come to pass, guys?
Yeah, They get on these runs, these winning streaks, and I think people say, this is a 45, 50-win team. Everything's got to come with perspective. And it comes with the perspective of, we've said this time and time again, this isn't the team that the Thunder wanted when Kevin Durant got traded. They're still trying to figure out what this team is going to be around Russell Westbrook. They brought in a guy like Jeremy Grant who improves their defense. They made that move and sending Ilyasova out. And you thought they would keep Ilyasova because they needed that shooting, but they've gotten shooting from other places, actually. Oladipo's been better than advertised when he's come over. Domantas Sabonis has shot the ball well. Joffrey Laverne has at times too. But it's going to be a process. And it seems like we're making a ton of excuses for Sam Presti. And I had tons of people on Twitter last night saying, we got to make a move immediately. We got to do this. Look, Sam Presti knew good and well before this game that these two games that the Thunder needed to add some reinforcements. Mm-hmm. One of those reinforcements is Cameron Payne. Whenever he comes back, he's going to be an immediate boost to. Well, I won't go as far as say immediate because it's going to take time for him to get back at conditioning wise and where he needs to be. But he's going to help. He's going to be a guy off the bench that can create his own offense and create for others in the mold of a Westbrook Oladipo. And that's going to improve the Thunder and improve what kind of lineups they can throw out there. Mm-hmm. And then there's the whole trade scenario that we can dive into for days at a time, Rudy Gay's and the people of that world. But, this isn't the complete Thunder roster that we're going to see throughout the entire season. And people shouldn't be beaten down by the idea that 2 games is a reflection of how everything's going to look from here on out.
Right. And it's a great point to bring up the fact that Cameron Payne is not available right now, Barry. But are these types of games, Eric's right. You can't judge everything on a couple games, or even maybe a third of the season, which is still a pretty small sample size. But are these just the constant reminders that it really seems likely that this club will do something before the trade deadline, that they have to get some assistance for Russell Westbrook?
I think it's possible and likely that they're going to make a trade. However, they're not going to do anything major. They're not going to do anything that's roster changing. They are going to have to live with this.
Is Rudy Gay major in your mind?
No.
Not major.
And I don't think that's going to happen either. I think the Thunder this is a situation where they're going to be, you asked the question, yes, there's going to be 2 more games like this later in the season, probably 2 or 3 more sets of these.
Yeah.
Maybe
Thunder,
in January.
Especially in January. The Thunder has played an amazing number of close games. Not many blowouts either way. That's bound to catch up to you. So, to me, it's a little bit of helpful to have games like this, because it helps Billy show these guys, here's how we got to win. Yeah. They got to win on defense. That's how they're going to have to win. They're not going to beat teams 131, 124. They got to play good defense and then hope the offense just finds enough points to win. So, didn't play defense in Portland, didn't play defense in Salt Lake. Maybe they come home and realize, we got to sell out to defense.
Right. Well, guys, obviously a part of this year's narrative is Russell Westbrook and this triple-double number. And Russell said here in the last, couple days, I guess, that he's really tired of the triple-double talk. Said it's getting on his nerves. People think that if he doesn't get it, it's a big thing. When he does get it, it's a thing. Eric, what do you make of all this? Is this just frustration from some of the other things going on, or what exactly do you make of what Russell Westbrook said?
I think Russell Westbrook has a higher tolerance to talk about anything that has to do with triple doubles when they win.
Yeah.
And that's anything Russell Westbrook related. He'll talk more about anything when they're winning as opposed to when they're losing.
Sure.
He'll entertain the questions when it's a close game and he can help them pull it out. But these past 2 games, they were out of reach before Russell Westbrook could even get close to anything like that. So you saw the frustration with him in Portland with some of the shenanigans, kicking the ball away from Damian Lillard and throwing the ball. And when the Thunder's not winning, I mean, that's most important to Russell Westbrook. He wants to win. He's a competitor. That's obvious. And if he can get a triple-double within the context of winning, then I think, sure, he'll be open to talking about it. But he don't want to hear any of that stuff when they're losing ball games.
Yeah, and part of what he did say in the context of that quote is, all I care about is winning, honestly. Yeah. All the numbers don't mean anything to him. So, I think that and clearly there was noticeable frustration, Barry. We've seen it come up from time to time this year. Russell Westbrook, when he's frustrated, he doesn't mask it all that well. Is that something that is, again, you just have to come to accept that's who Russell Westbrook is, and occasionally he's going to kick the ball away from somebody else on another team, or does that have to stop? I mean, what he said about triple doubles aside, the frustration, those outward signs have to stop?
Well, I hope not, because they're not going to. I think Russell's come a long way.
Yeah.
But I still think he needs to work on some of those issues, but some of those aren't going to go away. When he's 37 years old, playing like Dwayne Wade's playing now, Russell Westbrook's going to be kicking the ball away from Damian Lillard, or getting in somebody's way. That's going to keep happening. He's got more Patrick Beverley in him than he'd like people to think. But the truth is, the more he can minimize those incidents, the more he can not let his teammates see his frustrations, whether it's at the score or the way he's playing or whatever it can be. Like I said, he's come a long way in that regard. So asking him to go even farther, I think, is a little bit of a stretch. But those things will continue to happen, but he needs to minimize them as much as possible.
Guys, as I think about Russell Westbrook, and I've thought about this for throughout the season, but Chris Paul, who was beloved here in Oklahoma City when the Hornets were here, they go back to New Orleans, and it wasn't long before his level of frustration with his situation reached a pretty high level there. You wonder, Russell Westbrook's a different player. Chris Paul, much more of a facilitating point guard than a scoring point guard like Russell Westbrook is. But you sort of wonder, how much he's got the pressure of this team, the pressure of the triple-double thing, the pressure of, what amazing thing can he do next. It's a lot on him, and I get that he gets paid handsomely for it. I understand all that. But that's a lot on a guy. In this talk about the triple-double thing, is that maybe him trying to move some of that to the side, or does it come back to winning in your mind, Barry?
Oh, I think the season is long.
Yeah.
You think about the peaks and valleys a team goes through, a player goes through with his performance. Russell Westbrook goes through those with his frustrations with answering questions about the triple-double, with certain themes. Early in the year it was Kevin Durant every 3 or 4 times a day
Right.
for 2-3 weeks. Then he started putting up these numbers, and now the theme has shifted. So we all get tired of the same old thing. Russell Westbrook gets tired of this same storyline. I don't know that this one's going to go away, so he's going to have to figure out ways to deal with it other than dropping his assist total to 8.4. So, that'd be the one way to get rid of it. But
I was thinking of that last night. Would Russell Westbrook intentionally not get triple doubles so we can stop talking about it?
I don't know.
But I think the Thunder's something like 9-3 this year when Russell Westbrook, or something, maybe 6-3 when Russell Westbrook gets a triple double. The point is they win when he gets triple doubles. So it's actually advantageous for the Thunder when he does get a triple double because he's contributing in all these categories that a lot of guys normally wouldn't.
Yeah.
Who else is going to distribute? Especially when Victor Oladipo's out, and he upped his assist numbers when he was playing recently. So. Yeah. Triple doubles are probably an advantageous thing for both Russell Westbrook and the Thunder at this point.
Yeah, they seem to play okay or above okay when he gets those triple doubles. Hey guys, just a few more minutes here on Thunder Thursday. Let's talk about the new collective bargaining agreement. We learned early last evening, NBA Players Association had agreed to a new collective bargaining agreement, which means no lockout this time around, which frankly I think we all remember how much of a pain that was the last time, being without basketball. But one of the things included in this, Eric, is this designated player situation. Explain to us what that is and what that could potentially mean to the Thunder.
From what I understand, it's something where each team can designate 2 players as their designated players, and then they can extend them from the year that they have remaining on their contract an additional 5 years. Now, this is one of those things where the Thunder probably wish they had this a year ago before Kevin Durant went into his final year, so they could say, hey, Kevin Durant, here's all the money in the world. Sign this 5-year extension. But basically, it's a rule that could potentially allow the Thunder to get ahead of Russell Westbrook's opt-out year in the final year of his contract. Going into this summer, they can say, hey, if we got this designated player rule that kicks in July 1st when the new CBA would kick in, it would allow the Thunder to tack on an additional 5 years onto that contract and really put him in an advantageous situation in terms of how much money he's going to make,
right.
And it would keep him from going into free agency. The biggest question is, we've seen Russell Westbrook do what we thought he wasn't going to do already. He signed an extension last summer, or this summer that just passed. It wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that he could do that again with this rule because Russell Westbrook does what he wants, as we know. But again, is the Thunder going to have a team around Russell Westbrook or a plan to where they can convince him to make that long-term commitment? Right. And I think that's been the question, whether or not this designated rule was in play or not. It was still going to be the question of this summer.
Yeah. Would it, Barry, could you have seen this helping with, say, Kevin Durant, and could it potentially help with Russell Westbrook?
Well, it could have helped with Durant. Who knows? I think all of us are probably through with trying to get inside the head of Kevin Durant because we were a long way away from where he was. So who knows? But it certainly, I'll say this, it can't hurt the Thunder. This is one more avenue by which the Thunder and the Jazz and the Spurs and all the small market teams can keep their own players. And that's really sort of the goal of the NBA office is to try to distribute the talent and not make the league so top-heavy where there's only 2 or 3 teams that can legitimately win the NBA championship.
Is this sort of the subtitle of this? Is this the Kevin Durant rule? Is this the outcropping of what we saw with Durant heading to Golden State, Eric, that the NBA and the Players Association said, let's try to enact something here that possibly avoids this in the future?
It's possible. With the creation of Golden State and their power play that they're making with Steph Curry, Durant, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, the league and the owners might have seen that as a way to, we need to be able to protect our players and keep them in-house, our star franchise guys. This doesn't just apply to a Russell Westbrook. I mean, this applies to a guy like a Paul George or any other monster free agent, a DeMarcus Cousins, or a guy who might be up in the next few years. So it gives the teams that have these players in-house, it gives them an opportunity to get ahead of this free agency period coming up.
Well, I have to think that there was at least somewhat of a thought, Barry, because the way the CBAs have gone the last couple of years, it's sort of been opposite what you thought the last CBA was supposed to be about. I mean, this big money dump that's coming, all these different things that really have altered things in the Thunder, maybe as much as anything, as any franchise, a high-level contender in a small market may have been hurt most by that. That at least had to have opened some eyes in the Thunder organization to say, hey, maybe the NBA actually is doing something that's beneficial to us.
Yeah, and although a little bit late, Eric mentioned this would have been nice a year ago. It would have been nice if the payroll cap increase had been gradually crept in. That would have kept Golden State from being hitting the exact intersection of being able to offer Durant a ton of money. So a variety of unfortunate timings for the Thunder. Maybe this does help down the road. We shall see. I found it interesting that this is, in theory, is going to apply to guys coming off their rookie contracts as well. So that's interesting. In other words, they could have done this, Adams and Oladipo, or didn't have Oladipo, but Adams and whoever, they could have done this a year ago to keep all the angst away. So anything they can do, we've seen it in the NFL with the franchise tag. The leagues have made it a point to try to keep superstars as spread out as possible, because while a team like Miami from 3, 4, 5 years ago, a team like Golden State currently, while that's great for Golden State and great for Miami and great for Joe fans sitting in Des Moines, Iowa, or Laramie, Wyoming, or Greenville, South Carolina, just watching something phenomenal, they think it's great. It's not good for the business of the league to be so top-heavy and a batch, 80% of the league, 90% of the league has no hope of winning the title. That's not what you have in baseball. That's not what you have in football. It is what you have in basketball.
Yeah. Maybe this gets Adam Silver back on Sam Presti's Christmas card list. Maybe that's what happened yesterday.
You have a fever.
Hey, be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.